Hello and welcome to this episode of Guide Adventures. I am Guy and I was in Japan. What an amazing place. I lived there for 2 years. I absolutely fell in love with the culture, with the people, with just the way of life there. I really did. So when I had the opportunity of going back again, well, what an absolute pleasure. So when it came to putting these things together, I wanted to research stuff that made it definitely unique, made it very different from what we could expect elsewhere, and to really draw from the little curiosities that make Japan so unique. Hence kind of looking at all of the toilet stuff, because it doesn't often come up. We don't have that many toilet monsters in modern culture. We don't really have that. Certainly not in the Western world. So that's kind of where it started, and it kind of became hey, there's a couple of things that are linked around this thing. Anyway, so that's kind of where the motivation came from. So this whole series is going to is grossing you out. I apologize for that, but I'm also just only a 13-year-old, so some things I still find funny, caveat aside. Now, we have done our exploration, we've done our climbing of Mount Inari, we've gone to Mount Hakone, we've got all of this wonderful stuff. What do we now do with it? How do we turn it into an adventure? Now, I know when I was on top of a mountain, I said that we were going to do the maps next. We cannot do that. We can't make the maps. We don't know what maps we need. We don't know what the adventure is. We're going to be doing ideation. We're going to be taking all of the different components that we have gathered in our research. We're going to be putting them together and crafting a vague skeletal outline of the adventure, and then we're going to turn it into a map. So all of these things, these are the different processes. So that's what I love about our hobby, is that we can come at it from different angles and say, well, okay, let's do it this way this time around. No, let's do it that way. Our imagination can be sparked from any direction, and I think that's absolutely awesome. Okay, so let's just do a quick review of what we got in totality from the time that I spent in Japan. And this is not everything, because there's so much more that I did that I didn't cover as videos and stuff, because I actually wanted a holiday, or honeymoon as a matter of fact, that's what it was. And what a wonderful honeymoon it was. And much love, by the way, to my husband, who was the camera person and director for the previous Rumble, where he was filming in Japan. He was very kind, very patient. Anyway, so much love there. Right, so what do we currently have? We've got the rice and the harvest. We've got kitsune, helpful or not helpful. We've got the yokai, the spirits, these inanimate objects, and can be evil, can be good. We've got the akuma, who are definitely bad, the evil ones. We've got the oni, which are really bad, but less spirit-like and more monster-like. There's Mount Inari and the Torii Gates with the Zujin Guardians. So we've got that as well. We've got high-speed travel. That's a thing. And when you think about bullet trains and things, you go, oh, they're a fairly modern thing. No, they were brought in the 1960s, which is mind-blowing in one way, especially when you look at the speed of trains in other countries, for example. I'm not looking at you, England. We've got volcanic eruptions. We've got sulfur vents. We've got all of that kind of underground stuff, the constant threat of exploding stuff, of destruction. Which is a major theme in the whole Shinto religion as well. This destruction, this renewal, this new thing replacing the old thing. So we've got that. We've got bowing deer. These deer that wander around, that are given such agency, such license, but treated so well as well, almost revered. We've got urine. We've got toilet paper. We've got toilets, teehee. And then we have mountain shrines everywhere. 32,000 shrines estimated to be on Mount Inari alone. 32,000. Now, how do we put them together? How do we mesh all of these things to itself? Well, I think we draw our inspiration directly from history. We know Mount Inari started when Noble threw a rice ball onto the mountain and it turned into a swan, and that Inari has become the god of harvest and of rice. So if we have a rice ball, the sacred rice ball around which the shrine is built, that gives us something. So that's as far as we need to be in terms of creativity. So we've got this rice ball, and it does something. It has to have the sacred thing. Yes, it can look after the harvest, but I feel like I can do more. What if the rice ball allows you to control something? And my immediate thought there would be to control foxes, and by default, kitsune. Wouldn't be malicious necessarily, it would just be perhaps a byproduct. So it's mainly used for the harvest, protecting of the harvest, but as a byproduct you can control kitsune. Right, so we now have the thing, the MacGuffin, the rice ball. Who wants this rice ball? Who wants to control kitsune? Who wants to control the messengers of the gods? Well, obviously we're going to use an Akuma, some dark evil force, but it is protected within a shrine. The shrine is protected by the Torii and the Zujin, so evil forces can't get in, provided that the shrine remains intact and that the priests are doing the necessary votive offerings, etc., 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 and that the Zujin are there. So you can't get into the shrine to steal the rice ball. You can't destroy the shrine to get the rice ball because you are using your forces of yokai and oni and all of those kinds of things, and they are going to be repulsed by the Torii, which protect against evil. So you can't get into the shrine. Who can get into the shrine? Priests, kitsune, neither of which will operate or work with you. We could go with the corrupt priest thing, but I feel like that doesn't have a place here. We can do corrupt priests for almost any temple. The deer. The deer wander around Nara City. There's signs everywhere. Do not attack, approach the deer. I mean, you do, they approach you and they bow, but they can get in. And we feed biscuits to the deer. So what if we hide something in the biscuits that are going to cause the deer to allow us to get into the shrine, or that are going to allow us to destroy the Torii and the Zujin? This is how my mind works, folks, is I see what I want, and then I have to figure it out as myself how I would get there. How would I do this? And this is just one of the paths that you can do. There's many, many, many paths you can do. Okay, so we feed the deer something that is going to cause them to go mad, to go ballistic, or to simply destroy the Torii. Straightforward, exploding deer. That's always fun. It's always exciting to see something wandering around and then bang! Right? I mean, that's shocking. Which makes for good D&D. Oni are feeding deer explosive cookies, which then need to detonate in some way. So the bad guy needs to be able to detonate these exploding deer. Okay, let's park that one. What if the deer are in rutting season and they bash heads and they explode? That could be quite fun. But then you've got to rely on them doing that on a frequent basis, and once all of the bucks have been blown up, there's not going to be much agitation. Anyway, we'll park it, we'll come back to it. All right, fine. So that's the scenario. The shrine suddenly has exploding deer, and the deer are starting to take out the Torii and to take out the Zujin. Great stuff. So the PCs get involved because they need to figure out what the hell is going on. How are these deer exploding? Why are they exploding? What's the purpose? What's the potential? So if we start to break it down into our 5 steps, our first step now is introduction to the deer exploding. Now, unlike Lesness Abbey, where we had to have multiple hooks to get the PCs to get into this mystery, I feel that this is a thwarting adventure. This is a thwarting adventure wrapped up in a very light mystery. Why are deer exploding and destroying the Torii and the Zujin? It's not a heavy mission. This is not deep and complicated. We can do more of those later on. And if you do want me to do that, hit the like button and leave your comments down below. If you want us to do a more complicated political kind of thing, a cloak and dagger kind of thing, let me know, because we can certainly do that. The PCs are hired by the priest to figure out why these deer are exploding. That leads us to the Oni, who would be employed by the Akuma, the Dark Force, to feed the deer. Great. So they get to the Oni, they feed the deer, and they stop the Oni, the deer stop. So how do we then get them to the bad guy? Well, if the Oni, they're not going to fight to the death necessarily. They could quite easily give up and then give back information, which I quite like. What else have we got? Let me just look at the list here. Inanimate objects. We haven't used an inanimate object. What if there was a compass that pointed to the thing that the Dark Lord was using to explode the deer? Or what if the deer or the explosive came from a source? Could come from the burning lands, the sulfuric lands, the gas lands, the stuff that we saw on Mount Hakone. That's quite a nice setting. It's very demonic, very dark, very horrific. Okay, so a compass will point the characters towards the direction of the burning lands. They find the Oni who are force-feeding the deer. The Oni then say, no, go to our boss. Step 1, discover the deer exploding. Journey, this is step 2, would be traveling through the burning lands. Step 3 would be defeating the Oni and discovering that they have a boss. So that's the twist, that there's more to this adventure than just what meets the eye. Step 4. Just going back to... We've got toilets and we've got toilet paper. We might as well use it somehow. Okay, so that demon that hides in toilets and then offers you red and blue toilet paper. I think that's quite a fun little potential prop there. So the bad guy has to have a castle or a fortress or something. And Japanese castles are quite a different story from medieval castles in a few ways. Let's just use an abandoned shrine. It could be, and kind of keeping it all within the shrine, within the Shinto, within that sort of space, headspace. But they can't get into it directly. They're going to have to go in through the toilet. Because I'm sorry. This is just I find it funny. So the toilets will feed into the burning lands. They could feed into caves underneath the burning lands, and that is where one of these yokai or akuma live, the toilet hag. So she's down there, and she will try and stop the PCs. The PCs will defeat her. That's step number 4. Step number 5 will then be getting into the compound and then defeating the Dark One and preventing them from detonating the deer. We still need to figure out how they're going to do that, but that's not a problem. That's minor, that's detail stuff. We can even make that up on the fly if we need to, but I obviously prefer not to. I think that's pretty much it. That's our 5 steps anyway. Weaknesses. Now this is something that I try and look at in those 5 steps. You go, okay, the compass pointing to the thing that the bad guy is using. It feels very simple. It feels very easy, doesn't it? So what could we replace that with? What haven't we involved? What haven't we? Let's have a look at our list. Volcanic eruptions, high-speed travel, and kitsune. I mean, the rice ball controls kitsune, but we haven't really involved them. Volcanic eruptions is simple. The big bad guy is going to use the deer to destroy the Tori and the Zujin, and has a booby trap in his lair that if you destroy him, the whole thing blows up under a volcanic, because it's already in the burning lands, which is sulfuric vents from volcanic activity. Anyway, so, okay, so that's the volcanic eruption. High-speed travel, come back to that one. Kitsune, when I get stuck or stumped for ideas, I position myself into the NPC role. I am a kitsune. There is this holy shrine that has a rice ball that can control my people. The priests don't abuse it. They don't use it for that. They use it for harvest purposes. But I think it would be better if it was in my hands. Now, we know the kitsune can be good or bad. Mischievous pranksters, a little bit more mischievous, a little bit darker, as well as helpful. What if a kitsune offers to guide our party through the caves and past the toilet hag, appearing to be friendly and helpful, which is fair, but their intention is not to destroy the shrine, because they don't want to kill the priest, they don't want to destroy the shrine. However, it's to allow them to get close enough that once they've proven their loyalty to the party and the priests, they can then steal the rice ball later, so that the kitsune claim power over themselves. I think that's quite nice, because that adds in a little undercurrent of some deception going on. It gives them this kitsune. The whole idea of collecting fox urine to pour onto rocks. I mean, I didn't look into how they actually do it, or did it in the old days. I mean, obviously these days they don't need that. What if the toilet hag will only know that you're there if you smell like a living thing, but if you smell of kitsune pee, she won't notice that you're there? I really like that idea. I know it's childish, but I That's it. So the Kitsune is going to be there to pee on the characters so that they can hide from this toilet hag, and then to try and steal the rice bowl. I think that gives him a nice little bit of complexity. He fits in quite nicely into the journey as well. Great, high-speed travel. If the Dark Lord has got this volcanic booby trap, how the hell are the PCs going to survive a volcanic eruption? Because I don't care what level you are, I don't care what magical protections you have. So one way or another, the players would all die. So they need to get out of there super quickly. We need bullet trains, we need to involve high-speed travel somehow. The Shinkansen, it's like a snake. This super fast metal, silver, white, blue snake. Okay. A plot is hatched in my head. The way that dragons are represented in Japan are more as the serpentine kind of spirits. They drew a lot of inspiration from the Chinese interpretation of dragons. What if we had a silver dragon, long, sinuously silver dragon, who could arrive and whisk the players away at high-speed travel across the terrain of Japan? It brings in the bullet train concept quite nicely. Where does this dragon come from? It's got to be involved somewhere in the steps. We can't just have a random dragon fly. Oh, I heard your pleas and thought I should save you. We need something more than that. We've got to link it back. We've got to tie it back. We've got to foreshadow that this dragon even exists. So a good silver dragon is held prisoner in the caves underneath the bad guy's temple because of reasons. We don't know what those reasons are, but we'll figure them out. If the PCs rescue the silver dragon will save them in return. If they don't rescue the silver dragon, it will be released from the prison when the temple is exploding, and then it can save them as well. I don't like that option, because it does feel very much like a GM hand-wavy type of thing, but let's see. I think that ticks everything. Rice, Kitsune, Yokai, Akuma, Oni, Mountainari, Torii Gate, Zoo Jin Guardians, high-speed travel, volcanic eruptions, bowing deer, urine and toilet paper, and a mountain shrine. This is my interpretation. Hit the like button and leave your comments. What would you do with all of those things? If you're so inclined, share your thoughts. It might inspire the rest of us to do things differently. Now we know we need the Oni that feed the deer. We need a Kitsune. We need the toilet hag. We need a silver dragon, and we need the big bad stats. So those are the stats that we'll have to include in our adventure moving forward. We also know what maps we need. We need the burning sands, the burning lands, the burning sulfuric pits of hell, whatever we're going to call it. We need the caves, and we need the ruined temple thing that the bad guy lives in. The final battle is step 5, so we don't want that compound to be overly complicated either. We don't need a map of the original shrine on Mount Inari. We don't need that. There's nothing really going to happen there, at least as far as I can see. So that is what we'll be doing next week, is we will be designing the maps that we will use in our adventure. And then the following week, we will design the actual adventure. Now, you can grab a copy of this adventure at the end of the month by heading on over to our patreon.com/greatgamemaster, legacy name from my previous channel. And we release these adventures as published adventures at the end of every month to our patrons. So if you find this quite fun, quite exciting, you can go and pick it up there. Anyway, until next time, I just want to say a massive thank you to the current Patreons that exist. Most of you came over from the previous channel, and I really appreciate your support. It's just absolutely mind-blowing. So a massive thank you to all of you. All right, until next week, I wish you and yours the very happiest of adventure creation.